All right, ladies and gentlemen, in association with my buddy Earl Skakel, this is Chad Zumach. This is the Bad Guys Volume 7. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been trying to get this guy on for a long time. When we put together this series, he was consistently in our top 3. It's happening. Earl, you do the intro, my friend.
I mean, I don't know if we have enough time for the intro, let alone the podcast. This is a man who I started my own podcast on just to interview him. And here we are with our dual sit-down Zumach Inappropriate Earl podcast, getting the man whose first 2 movies were The Terminator and the greatest Stallone movie of all time, Cobra. He was also in the movie Lionheart with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And let's not forget his starring role in a New York State lottery commercial. I now present to you guys the one, the only, the night slasher, Brian E. Thompson, in the house.
Thank you, Earl. Thank you, Chad.
Can we get into this this New York lottery commercial right out of the gates? Let's talk about this. I think that's what everyone wants to know. What does Earl know that I don't?
Well,
that
I was
go ahead.
No, I was watching TV one night. I had the New York cable station WOR on, and they show this incredibly good-looking man jogging through the streets of New York. And I looked at him and I'm like, Jesus, that's the night slasher. He's alive. Tell us about it, Mr. Thompson.
This is actually a really fun story about how you never know the linkage, the 6 degrees of separation, how jobs actually come about, how a career gets funded. And I was on my way home from the beach. I'd been paddle surfing, and my agent called and said they want to see you for this lottery commercial. I said, I'm in a tank top. I'm on my way to play golf. And you guys know who Patrick Warburton is, right?
Yes.
Well, Patrick's hard to get around to golf with because he's been doing 2 series for the past 20 years simultaneously. And so I had, it was a special day because Patrick and I are buddies, and I didn't want to miss my round of golf with Patrick. And you know how commercials auditions, they're a lottery, and they're in and of themselves. It's just a numbers game. You got to go to a lot of auditions, and I'm not particularly commercial. I'm pretty sure that McDonald's isn't going to put me behind their counter trying to sell somebody French fries. Just get that out of the way. So I wasn't terribly interested in going, and I said to my agent, I said, well, I'll go if they can see me right now. Because I was on the 405, need to go to Santa Monica. I had to get to Brookside where the Rose Bowl is to golf with Patrick. And she called back, she said, I'll see you right now. I said, fine. So I walk in there, and the guy's looking at me, and he's like, man, we need to get you in a tight tank top. And he pulls out a black t-shirt. We do the whatever. He had asked me to scream like a little girl. I told him that wasn't something that I'd practiced that much, but I'd give it a shot. So anyway, the next day they called and they offered the job, and they didn't offer very much. And so and they had kind of played their cards. We had learned through the grapevine that they had been searching for this guy for a month, that it worked on Monday. This was a Friday. And that it was the New York Lottery commercial. And I said to my agent, I was like, Leanne, how can the New York Lottery tell us that they don't have any money? This is not, really. I mean, this is like you're talking to the bank themselves. And I said, this is what I want. And she's like, what? They're never going to agree to that. And I'm like, then I'm never going to do the commercial. This isn't a career-making move. This is all about, funding a career. And I said, Leanne, be super nice about it. Just to tell them this is, and that we can do it for this. And she was a bit nervous and said, and do not call them back. There's something what I call a 24-hour bake period, where people initially like, F you, look at, what does that guy think he's made of? Gold. And so she did exactly as was asked. And like 23 and a half hours later on the Saturday, they called and offered us the job.
There it is.
And so we did the job, and it was kind of a bucket list check mark, because I'd always wanted to work in New York.
Yeah.
I got to go see a Broadway play every night. They put me up in a suite. It was very, very, very pampered. And on the last day, one of the people said to me, I guess you're tired of hearing how you got this job. I'm like, huh? So, well, how you got this job? And I said, well, yeah, I went to audition in Santa Monica. I said, no, Ralph's wife. I said, what does Ralph's wife have to do with it? Like, she said that on Wednesday, Ralph's wife was watching Californication and said to Ralph, hey, don't you need a guy like that? It was the very premiere of this episode of Californication I had done. And she had seen that. And so that's how they ended up calling me in to the audition. And then there's a whole other story about how I got the job in Californication, which is another 6 degrees of separation story. So it's amazing how these things link together. But that thing ran for 3 years, and every quarter it was like winning the lottery. This check, because they pay quarterly for regional commercials, and it was absolutely the best paying commercial I've done in my entire career.
Well, you have a good body of work. You've been active since '83. Like, how did you fall into this? Like, how did this all come together? Because, I'm obviously going through my mad research team at Wikipedia.
I think acting found me. I was asking a friend if he needed a ride home from school, Paul Delishaw, who's actually now a pastor. He was very involved in the drama department. And he said, no, I'm trying out for the play. Oh, Brian, there's a part you'd be great for it. I was 17 years old. This was 1977. And he talked me into trying out for the school play, something I hadn't really thought about. And I got the part of this Russian ballet instructor in a classic comedy called You Can't Take It With You. And talk about wheels spinning. I was completely enamored with the process. I had more fun than anything I'd ever done in my entire life, bar nothing. And I went to college. I walked onto the Central Washington University football team, and I played football the fall of '77. And then winter quarter, the very first day, I saw an audition notice for Guys and Dolls, and they said if you didn't know a song, you could sing Happy Birthday. So I really haven't stopped acting since then. I was getting a music degree. I had a scholarship to play the piano, but there was a guy my age who was also a freshman who was in the music major who played the piano, and I knew that if I practiced 8 hours a day for 4 years, that I would never be as good as he was. Guys, there's gifted and then there's wannabes. And so I ended up getting a degree in business, but I never left the drama department. I had plays, and I'd hear a monologue and I liked the text. I would memorize it. It wouldn't leave me alone till I had it memorized. And then I had done a lot of heavy construction work to pay for college in the summers, and that company had offered me a job when I got out of school for starting job with benefits, $50,000 in Portland, Oregon. And it was really romantic work, building docks, bridges, and piers on the Columbia River. I mean, we did amazing stuff, big stuff, gargantuan things. And there was that romantic side of, getting up at the crack of dawn and being in a skiff as the sun comes up, going out to the barge. It's a very manly occupation. And I it was as if that future was completely laid out for me. And I didn't want to stop acting, but when you're going to school in Ellensburg, Washington, how are you going to how are you going to support yourself? So I secretly wrote letters to the Screen Actors Guild and Actors Equity Union asking them to recommend schools. They didn't recommend schools. They recommended a book called Acting Professionally by Dr. Robert Cohen, which is still a very excellent book to read on the subject. And anyway, he was a head of a department, and I auditioned for his graduate acting program and got a master's of fine arts. I ended up getting a full ride to the University of California, Irvine, where we did nothing but act, sang, and dance 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 years. And then the business management degree really locked in my concept that acting is a business. Well, what are the barriers to the market? To me, barriers to the market were being able to survive an audition. I wanted to act so much that when I went to the audition, this dragon of nerves would decimate me. And how do you get good at fighting dragons? Well, you fight a lot of dragons. So if I could sneak off, skip a class, I would sneak up to Hollywood and go audition for stuff that I had no chance of getting, or I didn't think I had a chance of getting. And the most amazing, seamless transition from school to professional work. A year before I finished, I'm leaving a lot of the story out, it's pretty good, but a year before I finished college, I got an agent, I got my SAG card, I had 5 SAG jobs. And by the time I graduated, almost to the penny, I had made $50,000 my last year in college, which was the same amount of money
you were going to get from the other job. Yeah.
And then a year out of college, I got this audition for this crazy part called The Night Slasher with the #1 box office star in the world at the time, Sylvester Stallone. And it was 6 auditions followed by a 7th audition, which was a screen test. So a year out of college, I was starring opposite the biggest box office draw in the world. He was the first actor to ever be paid $12 million for a movie. That is the short story.
Earl, this is your wheelhouse right now. You take it from here, pal.
Well, Cobra is like my favorite action movie of all time. And I remember when I saw it, it was 1986. It was a double feature of Raw Deal, a Schwarzenegger underrated gem, and then Cobra. And I just fell in love with you as the bad guy, not knowing the backstory of the movie, that it was the original screenplay for Beverly Hills Cop, and that Stallone was like, well, I'm not very funny, so let's make it more violent. And there is a 3.5-hour cut of the movie Cobra that got like an X rating. It was so violent. But I remember when I saw the movie, I was like, well, the bad guy's not in it that much, and he's great. And there seemed to be some scenes in the theatrical cut that would show you like sharpening the knife, and then it would just cut away. Your role in the movie was originally a lot bigger, correct?
I can't verify that. I don't remember if much of anything was cut out, actually. I can't think of a single scene that was cut.
Because it just seemed like I don't know, there were some scenes with you and your followers when you're clanking the axes, but then it just cut away real fast, and I don't know, it seemed like your character.
Well, Earl, there wasn't anything else written, and this was part of one of the things that caused me a lot of consternation when I took the part. And I actually asked for a meeting with Cosmatos and Stallone to discuss exactly what this group of guys were doing. And I vividly remember the dialogue. This is almost verbatim. So I said, what's the goal of the Night Slashers group? And Stallone's like, well, basically these guys are doing, they're doing what Hitler was doing. He was, he's kind of eradicating the people he didn't like. I'm like, yeah, but he was also, collecting their money. It was a systematic machine he built to siphon all of their money into a war effort. And you show us right now, we're indiscriminately walking up to this poor nurse and taking her out in this car, and the nurse has no linkage to any organization or I mean there's this line that says you can't stop the new world. Well, what does the new world want? And he's like, I said, well, maybe you could get it. There was nothing. George looks at Sly looks at George.
I love how you're poking holes in it.
And I'm like, and I said, well, how about if you showed that we had like some index cards that these people were targeted? And Sly says to George, yeah, George, why don't you get him some cards? There, and you've now heard my entire character development discussion with George and Sly. And I really would like to be able, I don't want this to be derogatory, but you know what? When it was my first big film, first big part. And the last thing that George Cosmatos said to me on the set, he walked over to me and he looked up at me. He was very short and he chain smoked. Looked up at me and he says, "You would have been very good if you would have listened to me on this film." And he walked away. That was George Cosmatos saying goodbye. Yeah.
Who'd you go up against for the bad guy? You said there was 7. Do you know any other names?
I have no idea. Every time I went to an audition, I was there by myself. There wasn't another person there. I know they saw a lot of people, but I have no idea. I think they were looking for a fresh face because there's no baggage. Who is this guy? Where does he come from?
Right.
You don't associate him with another character.
Earl, go from there.
Well, I heard that around your 4th audition, you were told that you were too nice to play the bad guy. What did you do to amp up your, I guess, meanness?
Yeah, you seem like I remember Stallone telling me, Brian, you seem like a really nice person. And I defended it by saying that I was an actor and that I'd had enough, evil things happen to me that I certainly have contemplated revenge. And, when you flash on revenge, your brain in an instant can think of an absolutely horrible circumstances that you're never going to fulfill, but the brain flashes on them. It does. So I said that, part of me would enjoy being that violent. And ultimately that wasn't true because I had nightmares after doing that part for a long time. It was not pleasant. And I wouldn't do it again. Not a chance.
Wow.
It's just not worth it. I mean, you got to think that when you do that, when you play that part, unless you can, I just don't, it's not possible for me to compartmentalize that much, but you're doing everything that actual psychopath does, except have the original kernel of thought that actually makes you do the action. And your body teaches you things that the brain doesn't teach you, but all the senses are that circumstance is the same. You've got the blood on your hands. This poor, beautiful nurse is looking at you like you're the devil incarnate. I mean, she's looking you right in the eyes like you are the most evil, scary thing that she's ever seen. And then, after you're done at the end of the day, you're at home and you got Dawn dish soap and you're trying to get the blood off your hands because it's got dye in it. And you're in the shower, and it's washing down the drain and it's bloody and these things hit you that you saw that day. And I love our servicemen, and this should not come off as any sort of, oh, Brian, you should be tougher. But it is you do get a bit of post-traumatic stress from it, because you've been involved in something horribly violent, something that you've never wanted to see in your life. And it's in your face, it's in your skin, it's in your hair. And you smell that girl, you smell the fear, and you don't just, walk away from that unscarred. I don't know how anybody can.
Well, for what it's worth, Earl and I were comics and just hanging out at the Comedy Store or wherever, we would just recite that movie. So it was such an iconic film, and we've had great bad guys. We've had Vernon Reed on, Kim Coates on the show, but you were fantastic in that. For what it's worth, I know it probably brought you some PTSD, but you pulled it off great. Like, we were like, this guy's the most scariest guy of all time.
Well, in the absence of any input from the producers, the writers, and the director, I wrote out my own. The character's name was Abaddon at the time, and I wrote out a thing that I called Abaddon's Credo, about what he was doing and what he wanted the New World to be. I had a whole. Basically, it was the Night Slasher's mission statement.
I'd like to get my hands on that.
Yeah.
I believe that it is. I wouldn't have thrown it away. I believe it's in the attic. I believe it's in the attic somewhere. Abaddon, and I'm pretty sure it's called Abaddon's Credo. But it's I saw the movie once, in 1986, and I didn't go see it again because it's too scary for me.
Wow. So you were the opposite of me and Earl.
Yeah, I've seen it about 400 times.
Show Mr. Thompson your thing that you showed me before the show.
Do have my friend did get me a autograph picture of you.
Wow.
Only the strong survive.
And that's one of my. I think that's the most positive line that he spoke. When I was trying to find things to write on those pictures, it's like, oh, that's not bad. That line will work. Rather than "We Kill the Weak." I don't want to autograph "We Kill the Weak."
Well,
I'll pay for that autograph.
Well, you come from the theater background. You were playing piano, but I think I talked to Martin Cove once, just randomly, and he calls those roles heavies. You seem to have a lot of heavy roles, like you played the heavy, the bad guy.
Oh, that's a lot of people haven't heard that term. And in one of those, when I was in college, standing in line on the street, waiting to audition at one of these auditions that I was just going to slay the dragon, this guy standing behind me looks at me and goes, man, you would make a really good heavy. And I'm like, what's a heavy? The muscle, the enforcer, the guy that, lowers the boom. Like, and I was like, gosh, that's not very nice. I kind of felt like he was calling me ugly. And then I thought about, I am larger than average, and I do have an angular face, and being intimidating is marketable. And if you could be the most intimidating, you're going to get a job in Hollywood. And so that wasn't anything that was, nobody ever mentioned the word heavy at theater school. Oh yeah, we got heavy. I don't know that they call those characters heavies on Broadway, but it certainly is a film and television term. And it's certainly an engine that is very marketable. And if I was teaching an acting school, I would take the guys that had some intimidation capabilities, and I'd hone them. I want to make you the scariest MF on the planet.
You hear that, Earl?
Go out there and get a job.
But I think that's
because every cop show every week needs a guy to get his comeuppance, to be doing something intimidating, horrible, and to meet his violent end. And we all have certain types of energies that we give off, and a lot of people are naturally afraid of me. I have had some of the most inexplicable bad reactions from people that make no sense whatsoever. Doesn't happen very often, doesn't happen every year, but there's some people that just have completely taken me the wrong way.
That sounds like Earl at the Comedy Store. Everyone takes him the wrong way.
They weren't laughing.
Like, well, that's when I start doing my lines from Cobra to get the crowd back. Because, well, I thought you had what you can't get from an acting class or an acting school. It's just your facial expressions in Cobra. It scared the shit out of me. Like, even when you're in the elevator with the nurse and she's like, the service elevator only, please. Remember. And you just shot her a look. You didn't say anything. You didn't touch the knife. And like, that's stuff you just can't teach. Or can you?
Can you? Well, yeah, I think so. When you've got an active inner life, you know, when we're speaking our words, we're choosing from this deep sea of a million images that we're just plucking at random. And one of the things that they teach you in acting school is to reconstruct that person's images and worlds. What images is he pulling his dialogue from? And that can be constructed. You know, is he being deceptive? Is he trying to be nice? Is he thinking about the time when something violent happened to him? Is he looking forward to something happening? You know what? I just flashed on. I auditioned for the psychopath in the first season of True Detective.
Oh.
And I did not get the job, but I had several callbacks. And the writer director, God, he's a super intelligent, creative, just wild mind. I'm spacing on his name right now. But he said to me, this is it. And I remember this. He said, Brian, I want you to do it again. And I want you to think that you just killed so-and-so, this character. And every time that you kill somebody, it brings you closer to God.
It's pretty intimidating.
Like, I got to tell you right now, I don't know what to do with that direction. But it was wildly creative. I don't know exactly how that's going to manifest itself, but he gave me that direction. Anyway, so these are the things that the wild things that you can put in the backstory, in the world, in the images that you draw from when you pull out the words or just to look at the girl in the office. What is actually going on in there? And then one more thing, I'm going to get medical on you guys. I don't know. This might be a new one.
Cool. We have a really dumb audience, so they need to get smarter. Educate them.
Okay. Google the word lipodystrophy.
Do it right now.
Lipodystrophy. And most likely, I'm the only person that you're ever going to meet in your lifetime that has it.
Lipodystrophy.
L-Y-P-O. Dystrophy.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you can have partial lipodystrophy and you can have full lipodystrophy. Full lipodystrophy is really dangerous. That means your body doesn't assimilate any fat. But I have partial lipodystrophy. The top half of my body will not deposit fat. It won't do it. And the last place that your body loses fat, as told to me by dermatologists, several of them, I was like a star at a dermatological convention when I was a teenager, is your face. This literally is just skin on bones. And if you look at Auschwitz victims, they still have cheeks. And every now and then I get to take a compliment for my starring role in Platoon. That should cause they're like, oh, because people think that they think, oh, yes, maybe that's Willem Dafoe. So I was at a party with Willem one night and I told him about lipodystrophy. And I said, the last, I told him the same thing I told you guys. And so Willem and I are at this party. He's squeezing my cheek. I'm squeezing his cheek because he's the only person I've ever seen who I thought maybe would have it. And to my disappointment, Willem Dafoe has cheeks.
Ah.
Yeah, I've never met another person that has it.
Well, let me ask you.
So when you know, look here, let's do a close up here. Look, Brian's going to smile. Look at that. I mean, it just goes, that is more lines and stuff going on. I had to, a lot of the early directors asked me to, to tone it down, to be,
like you're
simple.
acting?
Well, just that the face was too active. And then, I wear contact lenses. So I had to stop blinking because when you wear contact lenses, you want to blink every 3 seconds.
Well, let me ask you this real quick, because I can't let this go unnoticed. Earl's known for having his shirt off 24/7. Is this a pure coincidence that you have your shirt off?
Oh, Earl has his shirt
off. I'll do it out of respect.
Well, you know what? It's hot here in LA today, and I ran in from outside because I was late because I was actually doing a landscaping job so that I can impress my beautiful girlfriend when she gets home. I completely covered this walkway with what's called infield mix. It's like red brick. They used to make tracks out of it until all the running tracks became rubber. So there's this new beautiful 40-foot long walkway covered with this nice layer of what they call infield mix. And it was hot and sweaty. And I'm like, I'm just going to get hotter if I put a shirt on. No, but I am so dirty right now. That's why I didn't want to make another shirt dirty.
I'm not even joking. Earl has his shirt off 24/7. It's not even a joke. It was just a weird coincidence. I was like, is he paying tribute to Earl?
And Maybe. And as a kid, I didn't want to wear shirts. So Chad, come on, join us.
No, you guys.
Yeah, Chad.
You guys, let's
party pooper. Come on, Earl, get him to do it.
I know I got my Equinox hat on, but I haven't been to the gym in a while. So
come on,
it's okay.
Man.
Listen, from the neck up. Listen, we're not. Come on, Chad. Chad, you're turning red. Come on, Chad. Come on,
right,
Chad.
This is an iconic moment. We're gonna have to run with this one.
That's right. This is the totally irreverent Earl and Chad show.
I don't want anybody on a Reddit board to get mad at me. So
okay. Now then, on the count of 3, everybody do a muscle man pose. 1, 2, 3. Come on, Chad. Chad, come on. Join us, Earl.
I'm doing it, brother.
Oh, you're doing this one. Okay. Oh yeah. Everybody do this one. Like so, all our arms are at right angles at the same time. Higher, Chad. Fist closer to your head, Chad. Closer to your head. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay. There.
Come on, Chad. Do it, pig.
Just for the record, Earl has a fiance, just in case, I just want to put this out there. I'm just putting it up. All right, here we go.
And Earl, I recommend having a fiance for the rest of your life.
Oh, she's great. And, Mr. Thompson, I've done comedy for 20 plus years. And I know a lot of famous people, agents, managers, and they've all said, Earl, we love you so much. How can we help you make it to the next level? So you would think I would ask people to get me on The Tonight Show or Conan. I've literally asked all of them to get me that 3.5-hour cut of Cobra. I want it.
Do you think it really exists, or is it?
Do we freeze it?
Yeah. Whoa. I never thought I'd see the Night Slasher's kitchen. This is wild.
I built this kitchen 23 years ago. I built 9 kitchens in my life. I built 9 kitchens in my lifetime.
What part of California you in, Brian?
I'm in La Cañada.
Ooh.
Oh yes, my sister got kicked out of the high school there in Flint Ridge.
Oh wow, old Milwaukee. This guy's a man's man.
N.A. I don't drink anymore, guys, but I do like the taste of N.A. beer. It's hot here. Why won't you join me?
It's like my friend who said, I don't do cocaine anymore. I just like the smell of it.
Jesus. That's a Carlin bit.
I know.
That I just like.
Well, let me ask you if we could just circle back one more time to Cobra.
Okay.
The end scene. I was watching it the other night, and it seemed like you and Stallone weren't in the same room until he knifed you. Is it true you had to do your most of that scene to someone off screen, like Stallone wasn't there?
100% true. We shot Stallone's part of it. I was there for all of it, and then we get ready to turn around and do my side, and then, quiet on the set, and I'm like, "Hey, where's Sly?" He's in his trailer. I said, "Yeah, but we're gonna do this." He's like, "No, he's not gonna be. You're gonna be doing it with a script girl, literally like a PA, like she was like 20, maybe 20 years old, cute as a button, sweet little girl in a coat holding a notebook." And I was like, "Why can't he be here?" And they said, "Game's on."
That was nice.
So all of that, you want to know, was to the sweet script girl. and it's like, I've learned since that's like one of the biggest disses that you can do as an actor to another actor, is to not be there for their on camera, to not do your off camera. That's like, that's an FU. And it's in my lifetime, I think that's the only time an actor hasn't been off screen for me. I can't think of another person. I mean, I've worked with people that had horrible reputations, Jean-Claude, Oliver Reed, guys that definitely have behavioral issues. They were off camera. They did their off camera.
But is it something like with Stallone, where obviously at that time he's beyond gigantic? I think he was just coming off Rambo 2, over the top.
Well, Rocky 4 was in the theaters. Rocky 4 was in the theaters at that time, and it was breaking box office records. They said to me the game was on, so I don't know. Who knows? I just think that if it's the climactic scene of the movie, and that you might want to be there, make sure it's going okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, because in the final, I think your final line is something to the effect of, "You'll have to bring me in if you can. The court is civilized." And then Stallone pops up out of nowhere and goes, "But I'm not. This is where the law stops." Was that like literally the only part of your scene that he came into? Like where he was in the room?
Where if he was in the shot with me, but the big monologue at the end, and the all the work on the hook, going to the furnace, he wasn't there. Yeah, it was boy, that's a lot of air went out of my balloon that night.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. You were killed by two of the biggest movie stars of the 80s. You were murdered by both of them, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone. I mean, that's kind of cool to tell your kids if you have them, or somebody. It's cool to tell anyone. You got your heart ripped out or you're punched through, and
yeah, I think I can. I've seen some other actors' reels. I don't remember who they were. All the people that they've been killed by, but yeah, I've been eviscerated by Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, Steve Martin. Golly, who else has knocked me off?
Oh, did you get killed in Three Amigos?
Yeah, Steve Martin shot me.
That's pretty cool.
And Dina Meyer axed me in the balls with an axe in Dragonheart. And I guess her. Yeah. And my last line in that movie was "by a girl." By a girl, right in the crotch.
Did David Hasselhoff run you over with Kit?
I don't know that he killed. I don't know if he killed me in that one or not. I know we were hijackers. I don't remember what happened at the end of that show. Maybe we all got arrested or something. I know he
What was
arrested
the
me. He
audition
arrested
like
me
for
on Baywatch.
Terminator?
What was that?
David Hasselhoff arrested me on Baywatch. I was poaching fish. I was illegally fishing.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. That was pretty bad.
What was that, Earl? I cut you off before too.
Oh no, I was just saying. Well, one of your cohorts in Terminator was Bill Paxton. Was that anything out of the ordinary for that audition?
It was one audition. I love the memory of that audition because nobody knew who Gail Ann Hurd or Jim Cameron were. They were both 29 years old.
That's crazy.
It was in a office that was big enough to hold a folding picnic table and a couple chairs behind it and maybe a little space in front of it. I mean, to this day, I believe it's the tiniest room I've ever auditioned in. And I auditioned and Jim Cameron said, I believe that. They asked me a few questions about what I was doing. We talked about school a bit and I left and then I got offered the job. And then I don't think anybody on the set understood what was in Jim's mind, what this movie was going to be. And myself included, because you can't see that steel armature thing happening at the end. You don't, I mean, who knew that they were going to pull out? That was a revolutionary visual effects. And I remember somebody saying that the movie came out and somebody says, hey, the movie's pretty good. And a bunch of us went to Mann's Chinese Theater to watch it. And gosh, about 15 minutes into it, the thrill of how good the movie was one of my greatest movie experiences ever. That I'm in a really good movie. My God, this isn't just good, it's really good.
That's
awesome.
Well, it had such a charm to it. Like you could tell the budget wasn't gigantic. Most of the movie was filmed at night. And the kind of similar years later to RoboCop, didn't have a big budget, and it just became this phenomenon. You were the first person killed in the movie. I think that's pretty sweet.
The first termination.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was still in school.
In Irvine, you were still going to school?
Yeah, I was still in school, and they one thing I don't know if anybody's ever said, we had to reshoot that scene. There was something that Jim didn't like about the first time we shot it. I think maybe he didn't like the background but we had shot it at a different place at the Griffith Observatory. And
that's where that was? Okay.
Yeah, Griffith Observatory. And we'd shot it a different part of it on a different night. And it was two weeks, maybe a month later to say, hey, they're going to reshoot that scene. And they gave me a call. Well, I was at school in a 3.5-hour Shakespeare play, Coriolanus. And I had a tiny part. And I had found another actor who would go on for me, and the director wouldn't let him go on for me. The director wouldn't go on. He said that if I left and didn't go on, that he'd kick me out of school.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, this is a tiny part in a college production, that they would eject me from school. So my call time was 9 p.m. I told the AD the situation, and they said, well, Brian, we've got somebody here who can fill in for you if you can't make it. And the director wouldn't even let me out of the curtain call. And I'm telling you, I had 17 lines. It was one of the banes of what they have at college is that if you audition for a play, you have to take any part they offer you. You have to and take it. I'm a graduate student, and I've got 17 lines in a Shakespeare play playing 3 different parts that they've cobbled together. And, it was almost evil to be cast in that small of parts. I mean, in my 3rd year, and Anyway, I ran off stage after the curtain call. I had parked my car in the loading dock of the theater. I was driving 104 miles an hour on I-5.
Jesus.
I did not want to lose this job. And I get up to Griffith Observatory, driving past the Greek Theater. And I get up there. Where's the AD? I'm here. It's like, oh, Brian, we're not going to get to you for hours. and literally, they ran out of daylight, and they built a complete tent around us. And the last shot of the movie was my face laying in the blood on the pavement, because after you get really bloody, they have to do a redress. They got to clean you up. So that was the very last shot, and I'm laying on the pavement, and Jim Cameron yells, print it. Somebody yells, that's a wrap, and they yank the tent open from around us, and just brilliant, bright sunlight just nailing you. Just, oh wow, golly! And the sun's up over Los Angeles. You're up on top of that mountain, and everybody just disappeared like rats. They had all packed up, and I'm covered with blood. The blood had run down my pants because they had done that move with him pulling his fistful of blood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, could I get a towel? And it just disappeared. And I just kind of walked back to my trailer trying to figure out how to get this sticky red Cairo syrup from my nether regions. Yeah. And it was just this, welcome to Hollywood, kid.
Were you familiar with Schwarzenegger from Conan at the time?
Absolutely. My first job in Hollywood was playing the evil villain Taurus Mordor in the Conan live show at Universal Studios Tour.
Oh, wow.
And so Arnold had even come to, they had included him in part of the opening because he was tied with Universal Studios. And there was a live sword and sorcery spectacular that was that ran for 11 years. And I did that job my last year in college. I was able to keep it on the weekends. I still have, tell you what, pause 1 second here.
Oh,
this
yeah.
Okay, I'm coming right back.
No, yeah, take your time. It's a podcast. Beautiful.
This is the first shirtless podcast ever in the history of podcasting. We are here with Brian E. Thompson, the night slasher from Cobra, first person killed in Terminator. He ordered Chad to take his shirt off. Oh,
holy!
Oh,
they're actual swords.
These are the swords from the Conan live show.
Oh, wow.
I still have them. And they survived. They make a great, don't they make a great, does that sound come through okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like the night.
Do you have the knife from Cobra?
So yes, I'm familiar with Conan and Mr. Schwarzenegger.
Earl, you had a question on Lionheart, right?
I did, because, and it's kind of a double question. I would want to get into the film a little bit, but when I saw Lionheart, I remember as soon as you came on the screen, I was like, oh, that's the bad guy from Cobra. Do you find after Cobra, whenever you would audition, you'd kind of, because, it was such an iconic role that as soon as you walked in, it was like, oh, that's the guy from Cobra. Did that hurt you or help you after the movie?
It certainly helped me getting jobs in, kind of the B and C level action adventure movies. I think that ultimately, I don't think a lot of people in Hollywood saw Cobra. People in the industry, I find that a lot of them are not, action adventure bound. And so, the larger projects, they had no idea about the movie Cobra. But I would say that the movie buffs, the people that are, really watch a lot of movies, have seen it. it certainly helped. Like I got a 3-picture deal with Trans World Entertainment after Cobra came out, and it certainly promoted action adventure filmmaking. But I remember I replaced Chuck Connors on that series Werewolf, and the producers had. I remember that they hadn't seen the movie at all. They just, all they knew of was that I was in a movie with Stallone.
And then with Lionheart, I get the same feeling when I watch that as I did Cobra. It's like, God, I wish he was in it more. Any interesting? No, I really, because you were so good. Like you were more in a suit in that movie with I guess the blonde lady was the bad guy in the movie, but you were more her sidekick, I guess you'd say. But like, I wanted you to be in it more, man. Any wacky stories from Lionheart?
Do I have any wacky stories? Well, how you get these jobs are interesting. When I was in college, I was really in the graduate program. We were always looking for new material to do ourselves, so we were reading all the time, and I got involved in reading a ton of books about Vietnam that I had just escaped that by like 2 years, and that people had to go through that. It was just, I remember reading Dispatches and a book called Nam, and then in Dramalog, that was a paper that at the time you could read about, and that's where I found out where the open auditions were. And there was a blurb in there for jobs that said that these 2 Vietnam veterans were going to make a short movie about Vietnam. And so I sent them my picture and resume, and I ended up in their short movie. Well, that was Sheldon Lettich. Sheldon Lettich wrote and directed Lionheart, along as well as Bloodsport, Double Impact, several of the Van Damme movies. So Sheldon gave me that job without auditioning because I had done his short film for him.
Not bad.
And I mean, your resume is so interesting. You've done, of course, a lot of action stuff, but you're also in iconic TV shows like The X-Files and Star Trek.
Don't forget Hardcastle McCormick.
One of my favorite shows as a child.
That was one of the jobs I had when I was in graduate school. And luckily, that's kind of funny. You're talking about timing. This is a quick one. I'm in Reuben Cannon's office for a general interview. When you're young and first to Hollywood, casting directors will meet you because you don't really have any film on you. So I was at a general interview at Reuben Cannon's office, and the phone rings, and it's his assistant saying, "Hey, the costumer really wants to talk to you." And what I realized, so he takes the phone with the costumer, and they said, the customer called and said, "Yeah, who's playing the part of this cop in scene, 47?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, scene 47." And I see him like frantically going through the script. And he's like, "Oh yeah, the cop on 47." Puts the phone on hold. He says, "Brian, what are you doing tomorrow?" I said, could you play a cop? Could you play a cop? And like, yeah. He goes, "What are your sizes?" It's like, "You're 6'2". Okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he goes, he gets back on the phone with the costumer. He says, "Yes, part's being played by Brian Thompson. He's 6'2", gives him all the sizes right there." What happens in these really small parts, all I did was arrest Brian Keith. I opened the door and I said, "Freeze." That was the whole part. And when the casting director, you had to break all the parts down manually by hand back then. It would be super easy if all there was this much of the script to miss a character, and Reuben had missed it. And I was in his office when the call came from the costumer looking for the part, and I got to cover Reuben Cannon's butt because they never knew that he forgot to cast it.
That's funny how Hollywood works. You get all the weird roles. We're almost about to wrap this thing up. Earl, what were some parting questions? This is your idol. I don't want you to walk away like feeling like you lost something. So what do you got?
Well, first of all, I've lost nothing but gained respect for Mr. Thompson, and I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to say thank you. But I always like to ask a actor of your longevity in your career, where you've been in hundreds of things, was there one role that you auditioned for, like the role that got away? Because I'm sure you, especially in the 80s after Cobra, were like the go-to, hey, we got to call Brian Thompson for the bad guy. And was there anything you missed out on that you look back and say, hey, man, I wish I would have got it?
No, the part that really like lit me up and spun my imagination, I got the part of sheriff, the Zen Buddhist sheriff of Key West, Florida, in a TV show called Key West. I just was so in love with that character. He totally believed that he didn't have, that there were no adversaries on earth and that people just needed recentering. So I got to have this wonderfully peaceful headspace and living in Key West, Florida. That there's no ache for me for the part that I missed. And kind of the same thing like with my love life. There's no girl that got away. I'm totally in love with the girl that's been in my life for the past 22 years. So no, there isn't one that got away. My goal in the MFA program at Irvine was to make a living as an actor. And what happened is beyond the goals that I set for myself in college. It's been absolutely wonderful, and that it got sustained, that it achieved a level of financial security is such a dream come true. I don't want for anything more. I take that back. I've got to audition for maybe 4 A-list movies in my entire career. Like I talked to acting classes and I asked them, how many movies do you think I've auditioned for that were nominated for an Oscar? And the answer is 0, because you can't get the audition. And I just got to audition for, the Coen brothers. Joel Coen did Macbeth with Fran McDormand. And so I got a part in Macbeth with Fran McDormand and Denzel Washington. and I would love to be in more worthwhile projects. It doesn't matter what part I play, but when it's a great script, it just vibrates your soul. And to have worked with those guys on that level, I would like there to be more opportunities like that. I just like to give me the audition, but you can't get the audition. People don't understand that. They don't have auditions.
Yeah. At the end of we always have everyone plug their stuff, and I'm looking at your social media now. Is your middle name Earl? Because this is Brian Earl Thompson.
My middle name is Earl.
Holy balls.
Dude, and I wanted, I debated, should I be Brian Thompson or should I be Brian Earl? Or should it be Brian Earl Thompson? I had an agent at the time. They said, let's just go with Brian Thompson, because there's almost everybody I met knows another Brian Thompson. I know another Brian Thompson. So I said, you're going to be Brian Thompson, the actor, and that's an easy name for people to remember. So, okay. But I also would have liked Brian Earl.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'd take it to another level and just go Earl Thompson, but that's
Earl Thompson. Well, that's my brother's name.
I mean, it seems like it's some kind of weird karma that we're talking right now. But I would also like to plug for you. Many people know how cheap Earl Skakel is. I recently made.
And you're a big cheapskate. You're a big cheapskate.
I
even though you're a Skakel, a legendary Skakel connected to the Kennedy family, you're cheap.
I could stretch a penny into a dollar, but I spent $109 recently on the greatest investment a man can, and that's a cameo by Brian E. Thompson. And let me just say, you delivered, brother.
Hey, thank you. I love doing those cameos, and I'll put a plug in for that, because every penny that people throw my way from those cameos goes to my 4 favorite charities: St. Jude's, Operation of Hope, Operation Next, and Best Buddies.
And Milwaukee's best.
And well, that just keeps me in a kind of a low-cal fun drink.
I'm messing around.
Well, I'm going to do another cameo with you, because the one you gave me was so good that I'm going to do another one this week. And I'm not asking you to do anything for free, but right now, to end this podcast, I think it would be good if you just looked into the camera after Chad yells action and just said, "You won't do it, will you, pig?" I'd be in heaven. I swear another cameo for me is coming.
But he brought up nightmares.
I can do that, and I can absolutely do that. And just so you guys know, and I've told this before, Stallone completely directed where to put the lights, what kind of light he wanted, where the camera, on what lens for the word pig, and told me how to hold the water in my mouth. He said, we're gonna be backlit. That thing's gonna spray. It's gonna be. I mean, he knew. He has a wonderful cinematographic mind for what's going to be successful, because that moment of saying that word is what most people remember from the character, and it was because of the way Stallone set it up and shot it.
Well, looking back and thinking of that scene now, it was the lighting behind you, kind of that reddish, yellowish hue, and the sweat. I'm assuming someone was with the water, or maybe there was flames. Were you really sweating?
No, that was a pickup shot that we did, 3 or 4 months after shooting, to just shoot that word. We did a couple other pickup things, but we were on a sound stage that I don't even think we had shot at during the movie, on a completely black background, and Stallone wanted to shoot that word just like that. It's a pickup shot months after shooting.
Credit where credit's due.
Yeah, what are we doing? Putting water in the mouth. There's a light over there. I didn't know it looked so. It might end up being the most best shot single word of my entire career. There it is.
Well, it's just
very
the perfect
easily could be.
combination.
I can't remember any other director who's setting up a shot for me just to say one word.
Well, yeah. I mean, Stallone is a genius. He doesn't get the credit for, because I think some of his roles, like Rocky and Rambo, are, I guess you'd say, simple-ish characters, like not dumb, but like clearly the guy's made $1 billion. He's pretty smart.
I am a fan of the Rocky movies. I am a huge fan. Those movies are so well made and so well constructed. There's a plot sense that he has, about characters and how they interact. That is, it's a sense that, he's a bit gifted in that area, without a doubt.
All right. Well, I could talk to you for all day. Before we do your end line from Cobra, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to do this with us. And
Earl, what
Chad,
do you want to
yell out?
What are your plugs? Your TV show on HBO Max, Jellies? What else you got?
I'm on the cartoon The Jellies on HBO Max, and I'm dying up here on Showtime. Roast battle on some show, some network with the word comedy in it. But this isn't about me. This is about the great night slasher. So we're in the warehouse. Stallone's looking for you.
Earl, who directed Cobra? Who directed? I want to play that guy. Who directed it?
Well, I want to say my friend John Hertzfeld had something to do with the producing of that film. He was Cho. He didn't have a line in the movie, but a little nepotism going on. But welcome to the business. All right, Chad, you're the director. Here we are in the warehouse. Stallone's looking for you, and go.
Action.
I'm sorry, I went up on my lines. Is a script girl over there?
Cut.
I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, I should have. I was supposed to have my lines memorized before I came to this set.
Here are your lines. You won't do it.
All right, speed. Action.
You won't do it, will you, pig?
Cut.
The court. I'm supposed
That's
to
a
say
wrap.
the court is civilized.
Oh yeah. Say that one more time, and then I'll come in with the Stallone line. Chad, you're a real amateur.
Yeah, he's supposed to. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't read the script.
So I'll do the Stallone part. Nice. This is
Here, and I'm going to start it with an acting lesson, okay? And this is the acting lesson. I got this from Stallone. It's like,
Pass it on down.
Brian, what a lot of actors that come from the theater, they don't realize that the microphone, it amplifies your voice. You don't have to project. And so this is how I get my voice like this. I clear my throat a lot like this. And then I want you to speak with just a little bit of volume. Okay, that's how I want you to do this line. So,
All right.
and action.
Action.
You can't stop the new world. Can you, pig? The court is civilized, isn't it? Pig.
But I'm not. This is where the law stops, and I start. Sucker.
Sucker.
Brian E. Thompson.
Oh, cut.
Stage fight. Hit, punch.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Hold on. I do it. I can die and go to heaven now. You'll be getting a cameo request from me in about 2 hours, my friend.
Oh, this could not have gone any better.
Could it be a con? Are we done recording?
No, I could hit now.
Okay, let's stop recording. Then I'll tell you the stories that I can't tell you.
All right, guys. Hey, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, Sit Down Zumach and Inappropriate Earl. Thank you so much. Again, this is The Bad Guys, Volume 7. Good night.